Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Amsterdam Talk Season 4, Episode 28. I am your host, Rod, and today I bring to you Miss Valerie Green today. How are you doing?
I'm awesome, Rod. How are you doing?
Oh, man, I'm good. Just up and down weather. One day is 70, next day is 45. It's that
Oh
time of
my
the year.
God. I know October is in the northern hemisphere can't make up his mind.
Yeah, it's that time of the year. One day is cold. Like you don't know how to dress. Hoodie and shorts or jeans and a tank top. Which way we
Oh my
going
God.
today?
I know
So
layers are the name of the game.
well, you put on layers and then I remember before we get started, I remember I went on a work trip and I left Florida to go home. And then I came back and I had on like a bunch of layers. As soon as I got off in the middle of end of November, early December, I had to come out of everything because it was so hot in Florida still.
Oh my God. Yes, totally. And then, of course, if you take layers, then you have to carry a bag to carry them all with you. So it is kind of annoying.
Right. But okay, so before we get started, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So I like to consider myself a relationship mentor because I do coaching, consulting, mentoring, healing, all of it. And I've been doing this for about 20 years. I help singles attract the right partner for them. I help couples stop fighting and feel close again. I help people grieve after a breakup and take stock about what they can learn so they don't repeat the same patterns again. I even have a niche where I help adult children relate to their parents better. I help heal anxious attachment. I do all of it. So happy to chat about anything relationship wise that you want.
Okay, so we're just going to jump right into it. So I'm guessing we could go with, why do successful women fail at love and how to attract the love that they want? Why do a lot of
Exactly.
successful women fail?
It's so true. Yeah, I mean, it is a phenomenon that I see happening, that the skills that it takes to succeed in the business world are just different than the skills it takes to succeed in relationships. I know this from my own personal story. I was raised, that men and women are the same. I grew up I was born in 78, so I grew up in the 80s, and that was the zeitgeist at the time, that men and women are equal. And we are equal, of course, but we're different. But I was raised like they're the same. My parents actually encouraged that. They gave me both boys' toys and girls' toys to play with. Of course, I didn't really like the boys' toys. And so when I was taught like how to be successful is to work hard, to have goals, to accomplish them, to ask for what you want in a direct way, to analyze and solve problems and get ahead and focus on what you can do and achieve and accomplish. But that is masculine energy. And so when I tried to take all those skills to my relationships, all I did was argue with my boyfriends in my 20s, and things would start out great, but then we would just either wind up just like, well, screw it, we can't be together anyway, and kind of like live like roommates, or we would just fight all the time and sleep in separate beds. And that really started me on a transformational journey to learn how to have a truly connected partnership. And I studied with the top experts in the world like Sue Johnson and John Gottman, and I learned along the way how to really embody my feminine energy. So I want to talk about there's basically three main mistakes that I see successful women making. And I used to make all these same mistakes myself. In fact, I still do regularly, because it's hard to get past your original programming.
Right.
But now it's funny, like my husband, he jokes around, like, people ask him, what's it like to be married to a relationship coach? And he answers like, well, it's kind of like driving with a mechanic in the passenger seat. If the car breaks down, then they know how to fix it. So yes, I still fall into my old patterns, but thankfully I have the tools to repair when I do. So of course I'm happy to speak about my own life too. But so I want to share a little bit about masculine, feminine energy, because that's the first mistake that I see successful women that are successful in the business world making, that causes their relationships to fail. Because I used to make the same mistake. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur. My dad would constantly tell me like, I paid for your NYU education. What are you doing with it? You have to work harder, So it's like that. I was totally in my masculine energy, and there's nothing wrong with being in masculine energy. In fact, that's what we need to be in order to survive and succeed in the business world. But let me define it. So masculine energy is things like setting goals, wanting to accomplish those goals, and check them off, analyzing, solving problems, providing, giving, and being logical. And we're all familiar with that. Of course, that's the dominant paradigm still here in the West. We don't, even though women have gained a lot of power, feminine energy itself has not.
Right.
And like, this is why, in my opinion, most women, myself included, didn't even know what it was. And so feminine energy is things like paying attention to your feelings and expressing feelings rather than thoughts. Instead of trying to solve problems, sharing your feelings, sharing your desires, what that desire would provide for you, and trying to collaborate on a solution together. It's more collaboration rather than competition, which we're also really not taught. It's kind of all the soft skills. And it's really paying attention to our body sensations, living from our heart instead of our head, and making holistic decisions, incorporating our intuition. They say women's intuition,
right.
But like most of us aren't taught how to access it. And just being rather than trying to accomplish, and receiving. You can kind of think about it like a partner dance where, and what I want to say is that both men and women and all genders and all sexual orientations, every human being has both masculine and feminine energy inside of us. It's not like men are all masculine and women are all feminine. I mean, that's been outdated a long time ago. It's about being authentic, but you can kind of think about it like a partner dance where, the leader is leading, but I'm going to say he, but sometimes it's a she who's the leader, he's leading in a way where he's attuned to the follower, and a good leader, wants to make the follower feel good and wants to make her express herself in a way that feels good to both of them. So it's a collaboration. It's not like feminine energy is about just being submissive and following blindly. It's about, there's a really harmonious dynamic where the masculine partner gives to the feminine partner joyfully receives and appreciates him, and then he feels successful for making her happy.
Right.
And, that's the harmonious dynamic. But what I used to do, and still sometimes do, and what I see most successful women do, successful in business, is they'll try to take those skills into the relationship and try to tell the man what to do and how to do it and give advice, and think that she has to be the one who's nagging him to do things, and she's the one who's analyzing problems, and she's the one that's making plans. And that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But what most masculine energy men will do with that is then they'll just be like, oh, she's taking care of it. I'll just lean back. This must be what she wants. I'm just going to lean back and let her do it. Then she'll get angry. Why isn't he stepping up and make him wrong? And then he'll be like, now I feel disrespected. Now I don't want to do it. And that's like the rut that I see most of my women clients come to me, because I coach both single women, and I also coach women that are in a couple where the man doesn't want to participate in coaching, which is kind of a large percentage of it, just because usually the woman is just nature, nurture, whatever. Usually women are the ones that are most wanting to seek help. But I also work with couples, of course. But when I work with women that are really frustrated and coming to me because their boyfriend or husband is not stepping up and he's not pulling his weight and he's just arguing with her, it's usually because she's in her masculine energy. And the guy feels disrespected by that. And, it's about teaching her how to be more in her feminine energy.
Well, you're saying you teach him, but I understand, in a rough and tough, cruel world, especially in the business world we're talking about, you have to be ruthless, cutthroat, masculine. You have to be that way.
Right.
But how does she turn it off when she walks out of the office and gets home, where now she has to turn into mom or a wife or just the girlfriend or whatever? How does she turn it off?
Exactly. Yes, that's the art. And I want to validate what you're saying. It's not about turning it off for good, right? Because then we couldn't function. Like, we need masculine energy in order to even plan our day, even if we're not working in a company. But that's the main question. How do you switch from masculine energy to feminine energy? And this is only if this is what really gives you joy. But this is what I find most cis women, most because I don't work with a lot of trans people, although I highly respect all genders. But I mostly work with cis women. My experience is that most women prefer to be in their feminine energy, and they just don't know how. So first of all, you can ask yourself if that's what you want. Do you want to be the one who is allowing the guy to make the plans? Do you want to be the one who's feeling swept off your feet and who's receiving a lot of compliments and the guy that you're with actually does what he says he's going to do, and that he's the one who's asking you out on dates, and he's the one who's actually initiating things, and you're following and receiving and sharing your positive feelings and appreciating him, and that you feel like this is really the kind of dynamic you want, is for you to be the collaborator, not blindly following, but you're not the one who's like doing all the work, because some women want to be the masculine partner and be with a man who's more feminine. Men who are more feminine tend to be artists and musicians, because those are feminine professions, but not necessarily. But there are, I would say, I don't know what percentage wise, but there's a pretty significant percentage of men who are heterosexual, attracted to women. They're clearly wanting to be masculine energy in some ways, but they prefer to be the follower. They prefer for the woman to make the plans. They prefer for her to make the rules. They just want to be creative. And that's fine. It's just that if you are a woman and you want, because the thing is that all successful relationships have one partner who chooses to be more in their masculine energy and another partner who chooses to be more in their feminine energy. And that's what creates passion. Otherwise, the passion just dies or you butt heads. And I'm looking at what you say consistency, chivalry, consideration will definitely help. Is that a comment, or is that
that's a comment from a guest that's watching? One of the
yes. And I really agree. Yes, consistently, chivalry, and consideration. Yes, for the masculine partner. And of course, consistency is important for the feminine partner. I'm not exactly sure. Are you saying that that'll help you be in your feminine energy? That's probably what she meant. And I agree. Well, but at the same time, we don't want to rely on the guy to be in our feminine energy. So I want to actually answer your question about how. But sorry, I interrupted you.
No, I was getting ready to say, well, it goes around and you see these, she said, yes, these things on the internet, like I'm in my soft girl era and all this stuff. Like, what does that mean when you the goddamn devil still? What does it mean? I get it. It's like you. A lot of women will say, "I want this man to lead. I want him to lead," but you don't even give him the opportunity to lead because your masculine energy is trying to match his. Like when he's trying to take you and lead you, but you just doing other things to kind of basically conflict with him.
Exactly. And so, so the question is, how do you then switch into your feminine energy, which I do want to answer. I just wanted to answer, is that actually what you want? Because it's not what everyone wants, and I don't have a should about it, right? It's just, that this is what you want if you imagine it and that's what gives you joy, or if you're in a situation right now where either you're with a guy and he's not stepping up and he's not pulling his own weight, which of course could be other issues. But this is the lens we're looking at it through now, is masculine and feminine energy. So, because this is of course not the only mistake. I see other mistakes that they're making. I'm happy to talk about those too, but this is the first one. So, so in terms of how, first of all, it's a belief system. And because a lot of women think that, men and women are the same, and that what makes men feel satisfied in a relationship is the same thing that makes a woman satisfied in a relationship. So it's sometimes a lack of understanding of the differences between men and women, which is
Mhm.
actually mistake number 3. Um, and, it's something that I teach too. But so a masculine energy man, when he gives you a gift, he doesn't want you to give a gift back. I mean, of course, you can confirm this, but what he wants is for you to receive it and appreciate it and show your positive feelings. And you don't owe him anything other than your happiness,
Right.
because he did it to make you happy. And so it's this belief that if you lean back, receive what he's offering, let him initiate, and then you appreciate him and show your positive feelings in return, that you don't actually owe him anything else.
Right.
And a lot of women think that that's selfish, and they don't understand that, because women's core vulnerabilities are different than men's.
Mhm.
We're scared that we're not loved, and so we tend to want to do things to earn his love. And that pushes a man away, because it occurs to him as masculine, and masculine energy men are only attracted to feminine energy.
We
And
got
so
a
we don't
comment.
have to earn it. It's like, what we need to do is be willing to share our positive feelings and to be in our pleasure.
Oh.
And so I'm reading the other comment. Most women,
We got a comment. Most women can't accept or deal with a man's consistency, chivalry, or consideration.
right. And I agree. And it's because of these beliefs, in my opinion, that we're not taught how to be in our feminine energy, because we don't think that we deserve to just receive and appreciate. We feel selfish. We feel entitled. Or we don't trust because of issues from the past. And that's about doing the healing work, of course, from the past, which I also help my clients to do, is to heal trust issues from the past.
Followed it up that they can't and won't accept or deal with a man's consistency, chivalry, or consideration.
Yeah, and I agree. A lot of women can't and won't, and it's because of our limiting beliefs and the fact that we've closed our heart from the past because we've been hurt, and so therefore we don't trust, and then we want to be the one to do it, so that if I don't do it, then I don't. If I don't do it, it's hard for me to lean back and trust that he will, because I've been hurt in the past. And so I think, like, that is the healing work. But in terms of how to step into the feminine energy, it's about getting out of our head and doing things that give us pleasure, which also a lot of women feel guilty in doing, because we think that it's entitled, and we think that, our worth comes from accomplishing things.
Right.
Because that's masculine energy, but that's, what we've all been taught in Western culture. I know I like to say I was raised to be a human doing, not a human being, because my dad was always pushing me to work harder and do more.
Right.
And that's why I was in my masculine energy. So I had to learn to not let my calendar be my boss, which was hard. And carve out time in the day, because feminine energy isn't about making ourselves look pretty. Although if you enjoy doing your hair and doing your makeup and wearing colorful clothes and jewelry, and that's wonderful if you enjoy it. But that's not what feminine energy is about. It's not about how you look. It's about how you feel. And it's about finding the things that make you feel good, so that you can then, because the way that a masculine energy man works is, and you can confirm this or deny this if you want, but when he's relating to a woman, is that he wants to give her pleasure. He wants to make her happy authentically, not just because he wants to seduce her, although obviously that's, part of the goal.
It comes with it, but
yeah, right. But it's, a healthy man. That's not the only goal.
I mean, well, if he's into you like that, nothing's going to stop his determination to make you happy. Nothing's going to stop him.
Yeah, exactly. Unless he feels pushed away.
Right.
And what'll push a man away is if you're trying to initiate and you're trying to make something happen, because then he'll feel like she's too needy, usually.
Yeah. I mean, but also you get those that, I guess we're in this era where, like, I'll reach out to you, but you don't reach out to me. And I feel like the only way we talk is if I reach out to you, whether it's via text, email, through social media, phone call, whatever, but it's not reciprocated. Whereas though you won't reach out to me, and the only way we're going to speak today is if I call you, and that can also push a guy away. So,
Oh, totally, totally. Yeah, it's about what I always teach is when you're first getting to know a guy, if you want to be with a guy who's chivalrous and initiating and wants to reach out and make the plans, then the first few times you interact with him, let him reach out, because that allows him to gauge his interest. But then once you start dating, ask him, do you want to continue reaching out? Do you want me to reach out? Because a masculine energy man sometimes will always want to be the one who initiates. Like my husband is like that. When we were dating, he's like, I always want to be the one to initiate because I have a lot going on and I welcome hearing from you, but it occurs to me as, of course, you're welcome to reach out to me, but if I'm reaching out to you, I'm going to feel more attraction. And, I'm like, great, because I'm, just getting to know you. I'm also dating other people right now. I have a busy life. Awesome. I'll let you reach out. But then eventually, once we actually got exclusive, then he was like, now I want you to reach out as much as I do, because now I feel like I know where you stand with me. I want it to be mutual. So some guys want that from the beginning, and I think it makes sense to ask.
Say having those traits deems us as either boring or too controlling.
Having those traits. So you mean like that we're the ones who initiate and make the plans and are the ones that tell the guy what to do? Like, is that what you mean? The being in our masculine energy, I imagine.
I think what it means is whereas though if we got to reach out a lot, but I'm not just going to bash on that. I'm gonna flip it a little bit. So I guess we can go the opposite side and say how, as a woman, as a female, a woman, how to inspire a guy to commit.
Yeah. Yes, that is. I actually wrote a whole book on that. So the book is called The Commitment Roadmap. You can find that on my website. Okay. And yeah, so it is definitely an art, and it has a lot to do with feminine energy, but there's a lot of other components to that art. So yes, you can find that book on my website, coachvaleriegreen.com, and I see you put the link there. So basically, just to finish answering your question about feminine energy, it's finding things that give us pleasure and being in our pleasure and knowing that if we express our positive feelings and then we express our desires from a place where we're filled up, then the guy wants to step up and make us happy. But of course, that doesn't mean that a guy wants the same kind of relationship that we want, because commitment, in my opinion, is not to a person. It's not like, because that's not very, obviously, if I'm in love with a person, I'm going to be committed to them, meaning I'm not going to be with anyone else. I'm going to be monogamous with them. But that's what I define as exclusivity, not commitment. Commitment is to the shared values that you're embodying and the shared relationship culture that you're creating, and how that culture between the two of you is going to serve the world. And that's what John Gottman, in his over 40 years of research at this point, determined that keeps love alive for a lifetime. Like, he studied couples for over 40 years, like brings them into a love lab and hooks them up to electrodes and looks at all of their vitals and sees, and he could predict with 93% accuracy, with listening to a 10-minute conversation between newlyweds, whether they're going to stay together or get divorced. And so what he found is that what most couples say when they wind up breaking up is that they don't have shared values or a shared vision for the future anymore.
Right.
And so that's the first thing that I guide women to do if they want to inspire a man to commit, is right out of the gate. It's important to clarify whether he shares your values and whether he shares your vision for the type of culture that you want to create. Not even whether he wants to get married, because my husband didn't want to get married when we first met.
So how did you change? Not that to change. So how did you change that?
Yeah. So, yeah. And that's why I actually wrote a book, because and I've inspired a lot of other couples. A lot of other women to inspire their man to commit. And so eventually I realized I was giving the same advice to a lot of people. So I wrote a book. But yeah, so the first thing, it's funny, like when I first met my husband, it's really about asking the deeper questions with real curiosity,
Mm.
not with an interrogation. And so, in my opinion, the best way to do that is to share your own answer to the question first and then ask it, because that's not an interrogation. So, on our first date, I asked him, like, so, I consider my purpose in the world to be to inspire people to live more in their hearts and to create true harmony and partnership with each other. What about you? What's your purpose in life?
My purpose?
Well, no, that's what I asked him. But of course, you're welcome to answer if you want.
I think my purpose here is really just to help individuals. That's kind of what I do for a living. So just to help individuals get
Yes.
things.
And I agree. And then if we were on a date, I would ask you, oh my God, how do you do that? And, what's your favorite way to help people? And what has been the most inspiring story of how you've helped people? And I would just ask you those deeper questions to get to know what makes you tick and what are your values. Because it's not like, I'm not asking what are your values. That sounds like an interrogation.
Right. But that's the thing. What you did is a lot of people just do surface level.
Right.
And you kind of dug. So like if you just ask me what's my value and I tell you my values, then you just move on to the next question. You still surface level. It's like what under the surface is digging you to do that? Like how do you feel those values? I mean, we all raised different. I mean, your culture, where you come from, your culture, where you come from, your race, your ethnicity, all of that, it and values you, how you were raised and how you see things. So I think you get past the surface level stuff and you get deeper, you understand people more.
Right, exactly. So that's the first step, in my opinion. First of all, clarify both your values, your vision, the culture you want to create, and what are your triggers, because you're going to need to have a guy who is emotionally available. And how do you need someone to respond when you're triggered? Because you're not necessarily going to know that when you start dating, but you need to know what qualities a man has to have in order to respond when you get emotional, because that's what a husband needs to do. And then of course you need to have those same qualities in yourself to help him when he's triggered, because that's what it takes to build secure attachment. But it's important to know, what are my main emotional wounds? What kind of support do I need from someone else when I'm feeling triggered? What are my main emotional needs? What's my attachment style? And therefore, what kind of person do I need to be with that can accept my attachment style and harmonize with it? And so that's the kind of deep inner work that I guide my clients to do before they even start dating. Because that's why, if you know all that, then you get to ask the deeper questions to see if the person in front of you is actually even somebody who you want to be with. And because I find that most people are looking at, when they're on the date, they're asking the question, how do I make the other person like me? Rather than, do I like the other person, and let me find out what makes them tick, and do they want the same thing that I want? But from feminine energy, where you're just looking to enjoy your time and be curious and get to know this other person, what makes them tick, and oh my God, I love people and I just want to get to know who this person is in front of me and leave them better than I found them, That's feminine energy, not like, I need to know whether this guy's a match for me by the end of this meeting. That's masculine energy.
Well, I'm glad you spoke on that. Like if they like me or I like them. I was told many, many, many moons ago, probably when I was like 27, 20, 26, 27, something like that time. I was told by a young lady, no matter of fact, I was 30. I was told by a young lady before, she was like, I'll never answer the question, what type of guys you like. And I'm like, why wouldn't you answer that question? She says, because if I answer that question, you're going to be exactly what I want you to be. And so, whatever happens, and then you can really be who you are. You can disguise yourself, because if I'm telling you exactly what I like, you're going to play that role until whatever. And I'm like, seeing it from a different person's point of view, that is true. If you tell somebody exactly what you want, they can transform and become that. But then it does wear off, because there's only so much phony people can pretend.
Exactly. And I mean, I'm not against answering that question, although I agree with you. It's kind of cool that she didn't, because then she got to know exactly who you authentically were. But that's the second skill. So you're asking me, like, what are the steps to take to inspire a guy to commit? So the second step is knowing how to vet the people that you're dating to see if they are who they say they are. Because a lot of people, will try to be who you want them to be, but that mask can't last longer than a few months, especially if you're asking the deeper questions. But people can lie when they're answering your questions. So it's about noticing, how does he embody those values? Does he have integrity? Can he honor your boundaries? Is he, when you express a feeling, does he give you empathy, or does he blow it off? Like all of those red flags are important to catch. And I don't recommend that you become exclusive with somebody before you've really vetted them to make sure they share your values and vision, and they don't have any of your deal breakers, and they can meet your emotional needs. But that takes a lot of time to observe how he's showing up and find out. And that's why what I recommend is that women date multiple men. You don't have to have sex with multiple men. But stay dating in public places with multiple men and don't become exclusive just to have sex, because that's what I find is, like, a lot of women will be like, oh yeah, I want to be monogamous, but I don't want to, because I don't want to sleep with multiple people. So they get into what's called serial monogamy, where they're not asking these deeper questions, and they're not vetting him to see if he shares exactly the culture that she wants to create in her ideal relationship. And she likes him, and so therefore they're sleeping together because she wants to be safe, right? You don't want to date a guy who's sleeping around. That's just not safe these days. And so that's why they'll choose to be exclusive. But that kind of relationship, there's no way to inspire commitment from that, because you're not going deep enough. And that's where a lot of clients come to me when they're in what I call situationships, where they haven't actually clarified what are your values and vision and must-haves and deal breakers and timeline for moving the relationship forward. And have you had those discussions before you decided to become exclusive? And if not, then you're kind of taking yourself off the market, so to speak, for somebody who you don't even know wants what you want.
Correct.
So that's what I recommend before exclusivity, but then of course there's more steps.
Right, I get you. So, how do you communicate your feelings in a way that draws a person closer instead of pushing him or her away?
Yes. And that's actually the next step, because once you're exclusive, then it's about deepening the emotional intimacy. Because that's what, then you feel safe to go deeper, because this person, in my opinion, the purpose of exclusivity is seeing if this person is really compatible with you for the long term, because then you really are only seeing them, and you can feel like, okay, you're going to see them again soon. So if you open up and get vulnerable, then hopefully you're not going to just do that and then have them ghost you, right? So it's safer. Right. And so the thing is, and this is something I also had to learn the hard way, that like I said in the beginning, men and women have different core vulnerabilities. So women tend to feel that we're most scared of not being loved and being abandoned. Men are most scared by failing, by feeling like, I did it wrong, I'm not a good partner, I don't have what it takes to make her happy. And so if we express our feelings in a way that's making the guy wrong, then that's going to make him close his heart and just feel like a failure. But he might not know that he feels like a failure. And so then usually he'll put his energy elsewhere, like into work, where he gets appreciation and acknowledgement, and then feel more distant from you. And trust me, that happens between me and my husband sometimes too. And thankfully I know it's happening, and then I can turn it around. But so that's why I actually have a 5-step formula for how to share your feelings in a way that draws a man closer. And that's one of my free gifts on my website. It's called the Manifest Lasting Love e-guide. It's under the free products ebooks tab on my website. Basically the gist of that is First of all, men are single focused, so they're probably in the middle of something else if you want to share your feelings. And a lot of times, then that's why he seems to not be listening. And then we'll make him wrong for not listening. And then that pushes him away. So it's the first step is ask, hey, share a positive intention, because otherwise he'll think you're about to make him wrong. You know, like be like, hey, I want to talk about something that I think is going to bring us closer. Is now a good time?
Okay.
Right. That prepares him to hear your feelings, knowing you have an open heart. Not like, we need to talk. Right. That's like,
That's two different things, because you said I want to talk about this and you letting me know, but just saying we need to talk, because I'm sitting back like, what the hell? Okay. You're not normally thinking about anything positive. You're normally thinking something about on the negative. And that's not even just in a relationship or marriage. That's just with anybody. When somebody say, yo, we need to talk.
exactly.
Like,
exactly.
what happened?
Right. I'm like, oh, now I'm in trouble, or the other person's going to make me wrong. You know, that's like immediately he's defensive. And that's not what we want. So that's the first step. The second step is to, if you are going to share an unpleasant feeling, I recommend validating that whatever he did or didn't do had a positive reason, because that'll block his defensiveness. If you're just sharing your feelings, you can say, I'm sure there's a really good reason why you did that, and I look forward to hearing what it is. And I really felt hurt by that. And what I need is more, like let's say, you raised your voice earlier and I didn't say anything, but I would say like, what I need, and the reason for that is just because my dad yelled a lot as a kid. And so whenever someone raises their voice, I feel hurt. It's not like you did anything wrong. I just want you to know how I feel. And what I need is just for you to be aware of my sensitivity, so that in the future, maybe there's something that I can say in the moment. Because I kind of feel when someone is raising their voice, I feel a little bit like immediately closed down and I don't know what to say. So maybe what we could do is you could tell me something I can say when I feel that way. And maybe I can raise my hand or whatever to let you know. And then perhaps you could lower your voice in that moment. But I don't know. I don't want to tell you what to do. Right. So I'm sharing my feelings. That's step 3. And then step 4 is sharing my need, which is to modulate and to have a way of communicating. And then I'm asking you, what do you think?
Right.
And then, of course, we get to collaborate and brainstorm solutions together. And that's all the way back. Mistake number 2 that I see successful women making is telling the guy what to do rather than asking him, hey, here's how I feel. This is what I need. What do you think? Let's brainstorm solutions together. That's collaboration.
I get it. But got one more question for you. So how do you not give yourself away too quickly?
Yes, exactly. I know. These are all amazing questions. I want to finish the steps because I shared the 3 mistakes around successful women. I want to finish the steps to inspire a guy to commit, because there's a few more. But sharing your feelings in this way and creating this culture of collaboration will set you apart from most other women, because most other women want to tell the guy what to do, what he should be doing, and put pressure on him. We've been together for this long, so therefore we should move the relationship forward. And that's masculine energy, rather than sharing our feelings, our desires, our experiences that we want to have on the inside, and then collaborating. So that's the next step. After that, there's one more step to inspire commitment, which is, in my opinion, being a detective, figuring out what is the guy scared of with commitment. Because usually guys come into relationships having been burned in the past, and or maybe they had a really controlling mother and they're just scared of being controlled, or they're scared of being smothered, or they're scared of not being able to do the things they want to do, or not having freedom. And so it's being a detective and figuring out what are his concerns and then demonstrating the opposite. So for example, like my husband, he was really scared because nobody had ever really understood him fully before.
Mm.
Everybody had just like understood him to the extent that they could then get what they wanted out of him.
Right.
And so he was scared of that. He was scared of that I would, of course, want to understand him, but not like fully get him at the deepest level. And he was also scared that I would try to tell him that he couldn't, because he really likes to take solo road trips. And he was scared that like I wouldn't be okay with that I would need to go with him. Whereas like, I'm like, I don't really like road trips. I like staying in a hotel or an Airbnb. Like he really like, he did a van conversion on our car and he likes sleeping in the car. And I'm like, I don't really want that anyway. Don't worry about it. But do your thing. But so it's like, I had to demonstrate that. I had to let him go on solo trips. And when he came back, be happy for him and ask him about it in order to demonstrate the opposite, so that's what it's about. It's over time figuring out, and of course if it's authentic for you. If I really didn't want him to go on solo trips, then that might have been a deal breaker for us. So it's about knowing what your deal breakers are and being willing to have those tough conversations. But yeah, so now I want to answer your question about how to not get attached too quickly.
Right.
I know I'm sorry, I'm not really letting you speak, but you're asking me so many questions. I feel like I have to.
This is fine. Let you speak. I'm just listening, and the viewers are listening and interacting among themselves in the chat. So
no, exactly. It's funny because
question, and then we go from there.
It's funny because you can tell that right now I'm in my masculine energy because I'm trying to make points, right? Because masculine energy and conversation is get to the point. What's the point?
Right.
Feminine energy and conversation is just chit chat, and there's no point. We're just sharing different topics and jumping to different topics and sharing our feelings, and it's just feels good, right? So anyway, the art of not giving your heart away too quickly is, first of all, making sure that you're vetting him for, does he have your values and vision, and can he meet your emotional needs before you're exclusive? Because what I see a lot of women doing is being superficial just because it feels good. It doesn't feel good to have the deeper conversations. People's feelings could get hurt. They could get offended. People could not like those questions. That could be a buzzkill for them. You don't want to rock the boat, right? But what I see is that if you don't ask the deeper questions, then that causes us to get into a fantasy about who the other person is and then get attached to that fantasy rather than asking the tough questions that could burst your bubble and show you that he's not who you thought he was. So that's the first thing. It takes courage to do that, though.
Right.
I know we've already covered that, but secondly, it is about dating multiple people, so that, because what I find with women is if they're only dating one guy, it's really hard to not get attached to him before he's shown you that he is the kind of person you want to be with. And of course, if you're living in a place in the country or the world where it's hard to meet multiple people, it's not like I believe in going on duty dates where, I'm not attracted to this person, but I should. Like, I don't believe in that. But it's about staying open to meeting someone else, not putting all your eggs in one basket, so to speak. Letting guys open doors for you when you go out. Smiling at random men that you meet on the street, and telling yourself, I'm staying open to meeting someone else, not getting caught in this fantasy that he's the one before he's told you that he is. So that's the first. The second thing is, making sure to stay open to other men. The third thing, which is unique to this question, which I haven't answered before in this interview, is to not expect him to do anything that he hasn't already agreed to.
Okay.
So what I see a lot of women do is get attached too quickly and then have all these expectations before the guy has even decided that he wants to be her boyfriend. You didn't call me yesterday and I haven't talked to you in a week, and that's what you should do if we're dating. Why didn't you call me yesterday? And so that's gonna play on his vulnerability of feeling like a failure, and then he's probably going to lose interest after that. Rather than what I teach is turning your expectations into standards. So it's not, don't expect him that he's going to ask you out once a week just because he said that he likes you and he wants to keep dating you. That's why it's important to keep dating multiple people. But say, I have a standard that I'm not going to be exclusive with a guy until we've been dating at least once a week and he's been asking me out once a week consistently. That's when I'll consider being exclusive, for example. Like, now, I'm not saying that that's your only standard, but you know, it's I'm only gonna start to fantasize about the things he's already shown me that he likes doing. I'm not gonna start fantasizing that he's gonna do something just because I want my future husband to do that. Because the danger in that is then the fantasy will cause you to get attached. And so that's what I recommend doing if you want a law of attraction practice, which is about visualizing, is like if you're starting to get attached to this one guy and you're fantasizing about, you know, getting engaged and what it would look like to have his kids and, you know, like all of that, which women start doing. And if that's happening, then what I recommend is have that fantasy about the wedding and the kids, because that's what you want. That's what you're drawing into your life, but blur the guy's face out. So if you want to start with the feeling that this guy gives you, then great, like visualize it, but blur his face out. I know this is really hard to do, and say, I deserve to be with someone who makes me feel this way, but I don't know if it's him yet.
I can dig it. Thank you. Well, I'm not sure if you watched the show, but this is that time where we call, and since we're talking about date, this is part of the show that we call I Be Damned. Normally during this part of the show, we read a story that happens. It's a funny dating story. Nobody gets hurt. Just maybe embarrassed or something like that, but nobody ever gets hurt. So this is what she sent in. So this guy I've been seeing for about a month surprises me with a trip to Destin, Florida, because things been going good with us. Anyways, I finally get to the point to where I'm ready to give it up. So we're at a resort and started getting touchy. So at this point, I'm ready to pop, lock, and drop it. So I started to remove my clothing. Then I finally take my shoes off. This was our first time in this type of setting because the first 3 weekends, he took me on dates and I went home. So as we're doing what we're doing, he looks down and sees my feet. All of a sudden, the entire mood changed and dude went off on me. So he says, I don't look the same as my pictures, and I catfish him. And I talked about my toes so bad. Anyways, he left me in Destin, and I had to call my mom to pay for my way back home because I had no money.
Wow.
I'll be damned.
That is I'll be damned. Like, that's like, you just dodged a bullet there. I'd say run from that dude.
Oh man, yeah, she took off her shoes, and my man said he wasn't having that.
Oh my god, like that's just wow. Like, I mean, talking about judgmental. I mean, you don't have to be attracted to her, but you don't have to criticize her, you know?
Right. I understand, you know, but again, thank you, Valerie, for coming and sharing your wisdom with us.
Thank you for asking the good questions, and sorry that I cut you off, but you asked like really good questions and then I just had to spend a lot of time answering them.
Well, you're the expert, and that's what we bring you people. We bring you guys here for. So if somebody wanted to reach you, you know, besides the website, CoachValerieGreen.com, where else could they reach you at?
Yeah, so I mean, you can contact me there, but my email is Valerie@CoachValerieGreen.com if you want to reach out directly. But there is a contact page on my website. It's CoachValerieGreen.com. I know you have the link there. And there is a contact tab there, which goes directly to me. And then I do have 3 free gifts on my website under the free products gifts tab. I think it's free ebooks, products, whatever. There's a video training for couples to stop fighting and start connecting. There's that Manifest Lasting Love e-guide with the 5-step formula for how to share your feelings that draws the guy closer. And then for single women, I have the magnetic dating formula, which talks about some of the principles I talked about to not get attached too quickly and to really choose the kind of man who shares your values and can meet your emotional needs and all that.
Okay. So is it next week? I think it is next week, but I'll send it out if it's not next week. I think we got 2 shows next week, Tuesday and Wednesday. I think. I'm not sure. Y'all know I never remember who comes on next. I don't know the day of. So my calendar's always drawing blank. I do know at the end of the month we have young lady from General Hospital, Andy Page. She'll be on at the end of the month,
How fun.
and I think it's somebody else after that. Somebody else famous, really, really famous. I can't remember. But I know she'll be coming around, introducing us to some of her General Hospital colleagues. I mean, you like me that grew up with your grandmother, you know General Hospital, Young and the Restless, Guiding Light, Days of Our Lives. What else? It was a bunch of stuff that I had to sit through and watch from 2 to 3 at our house. But anyway, you can reach Valerie Green at coachvaleriegreen.com. If you have any questions for us, reach out to her there. Make sure you reach out to her website and get the free stuff. I'll see you guys next Tuesday. If you missed the show tonight, you can always run the playback right after this goes off. And if not, on Friday, you can actually catch it on all streaming sites where if you want to listen to me while you're riding in your car. I'm not the first person you want to think about when you wake up in the morning. But anyway, see you next week, same time, same place. Oh, we moved the time. So next week it'll be 8 p.m. instead of 7 p.m. I forgot. That's one thing we did do. So it'll be 8 p.m. next week. So thank you. Amsterdam Talk Season 4, Episode 28 with Valerie Green, Relationships and Transforming. See you next week.